Number 1.
Smith was last seen in Shepherdsville, Kentucky on January 11, 2011. He and his wife got into an argument at home. The argument escalated into a fight and Smith reportedly pulled his wife's hair and hit her in the face, but didn't leave any marks. She says she fired a handgun multiple times to scare him away. They went to a Waffle House restaurant, where Smith hit another car. He drove away, leaving his wife behind. His wife called the police, filed an assault complaint, and spent the night in a motel. At some point, Smith's wife called him and told him she would be pressing charges against him and that he might also face charges for driving under the influence and hit and run. He said his leg was hurt and he couldn't put any weight on it. The next day, accompanied by a police escort, Smith's wife went home. Her husband wasn't there and neither was his car. He has never been heard from again. He left without taking his coat, cellular phone, money, wallet or identification. It's uncharacteristic of him to go anywhere without his wallet. Smith's wife reported him missing on January 13th. On January 14th, his car was found abandoned in the 100 block of South 7th Street in Louisville, Kentucky, not far from the Ohio River. The keys were on the center console, and his cigarettes were also inside. Smith is an attorney who had worked for the Bullitt County Attorney's Office in the Tax Collection Division, but he lost his job shortly before his disappearance. His wife stated he was depressed over the state of his career and had spoken of suicide. He's originally from Alabama and may have returned there. Authorities don't believe foul play was involved in his case, but his family and friends are concerned about his well-being. His disappearance remains unsolved.
Number 2.
Imagine if your brother or sister went missing and years later you still don't know if they are dead or alive. This is what Debbie Collins has faced every day for 19 years since her sister vanished while living in Lexington. "There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of her," she said about her sister, Sharon Rose Sons. Collins and her mother, Sarah Sons, said Sharon has been missing since October 20, 1993, and is sorely missed. They seek closure, or a reunion, and answers to what happened nearly 2 decades ago, when she was last reported seen at a laundromat on Russell Cave Road. "The message we're trying to send is, we're not giving up," she said. Sharon's son, Christopher, was only 11 years old when she went missing, Collins said. He's not a 30-year-old man. Sharon grew up in Scott County and was a student at Scott County High School, her cousin, Marie Dunn, said. Sons was born in Lexington and will be 48 years old on January 16. She's described on a missing poster as being 5 feet 1 inch tall, 95 pounds, with auburn blonde hair and hazel eyes. According to the U.S. Department of Justice's National Missing Persons Systems website, findthemissing.org, Sons has a torn earlobe, a cesarean section scar, freckles on her nose in the summer, and a scar on the top of her head. There's a tattoo on her right ankle of a rose that is partially colored, and she has pierced ears. NamUs is a national centralized repository and resource for missing people and unidentified decedent records. It is based at the University of North Texas's Center for Human Identification's Forensic Services Unit, according to the organization's website. J. Todd Matthews, Quality Control and Communications Manager for NamUs at the UNT Health Science Center, said Dr. Emily Craig, a Scott County resident and regional system administrator for NamUs, made certain Kentucky unidentified cases listed with NamUs are extremely thorough, and she works with the agency at the national level. The best shot we have at finding resolution for the missing and unidentified is to get them into NamUs, Matthews wrote in an email. Sharon went to school, not only in Scott County, but also in Owen County, Collins said. Some of her family members reside in the northeastern portion of Scott County in Sadieville. Sons also resided in Frankfort, in Franklin County, Sharon's only sister added. Recalling Sons' childhood, her mother said she was a tomboy who played basketball with boys. At the time of her disappearance, Sons had been living with a man named Willie King on Cane Run Road and had been dating him for approximately 4 months, Collins said. He had been interviewed by law enforcement personnel, but was released, she added. Sons was running a simple errand the day she disappeared. She took off walking to the laundromat to see her aunt, she said, and never returned.
Number 3.
This case happened quite close to where I live now. There are a lot of inconsistencies in all the articles I've read, so apologies if it doesn't all add up 100%. I tried my best. I've seen the 28th and the 27th used as the night she went missing. Samantha Sperry went missing from near Murray, Kentucky on March 27, 2018. She was 25 at the time. Samantha was born and raised in the Murray area. She had recently separated from her husband, who she had 2 kids with. She had suffered from addiction early in her life, but at the time of her disappearance had been clean for 6 years, before relapsing just 2 weeks before in early March. While separated from her husband, Samantha began dating a man named Ren Hendrickson. Ren and his family seemed to have a bad reputation around town. They were known to be drug users, dealers, abusive, rapists, and thieves. This is all according to Samantha's sister, so take it as you will. On March 27, 2018, Samantha and Ren were at one of Ren's relatives' house, also stated to be his father's residence, with Ren's father, Dusty Holder. Samantha and Ren got into an argument, which resulted in Ren leaving in Samantha's car to go back to her house. He was not living there at the time, but decided he wanted to spend the night there instead without her. Dusty and Ren claim that Samantha decided not to leave because she wanted to stay and ride 4-wheelers. Dusty and Samantha proceeded to go ride 4-wheelers in a wooded area nearby. They eventually got lost and stuck in the mud. Instead of backtracking back to the relative's house, Dusty claims they decided to stay put and stay the night in the woods. Dusty says they left the 4-wheeler running until it ran out of gas to keep warm. The next morning, Samantha and Ren exit the woods on Y131 near the bridge before Y849. This is in the Kaler Bottoms area. Dusty suggested they go to a convenience store down the road for help as they had both been tired, wet, and cold. Dusty claims Samantha declined this offer and told him she had a relative living in the opposite direction. She would go there instead. Dusty says this is the last he saw her. Dusty did go to the convenience store for help, but made no mention of Samantha as far as I can tell. The problem with this is that Samantha did have family living in the area, but to get there she would need to travel north on Y131. She walked off going south on Y131. That day, 28th, Dusty and Ren are together again, when Dusty mentioned what happened the night before. Ren proceeds to freak out and call his mother. During this call, he explains Samantha's disappearance. He freaks out thinking Dusty had done something to Samantha. He decides he wants to take pills and die in the woods. His mother calls the police. The police refuse to go searching the woods for Ren or Samantha as Ren had been armed in previous incidents with officers. They claimed it was too dangerous. Samantha misses her 9 p.m. shift at work for the 28th. Her family report her missing after finding this out. They had also spent the whole day calling her, but had received no answer. On the 29th, the sheriff's department head out to the Kaler Bottoms area to search. During this search, they quickly find the 4-wheeler. It was out of gas. There was a small fire pit with 2 burned cell phones, both of which belonged to Dusty. There was only 1 track of footprints around the 4-wheeler and leading out of the woods. Officers quickly realized the story Dusty had given was not truthful. I've read many inconsistencies regarding the early searches. Some articles say that helicopters and dogs were used. Some say that 33,000 acres were searched with nothing turning up. Samantha's sister has posted on the Bring Samantha Home FB page that the sheriff lied and no helicopter or dog searches took place. I've seen somewhere that the sheriff also asked that no volunteers search the woods. I'm guessing he didn't want anyone to spook Ren? On April 1st, Ren walked out of the woods to his father's home on Tim Road asking for help. Officers question Ren, and he admits he took some of Samantha's belongings but lost them in the woods. These items have never been recovered. Officers questioned both Ren and Dusty and were released. They both passed polygraph tests, according to an article. Again, according to some articles, one major inconsistency between Dusty's and Ren's stories are that Dusty claims there was an argument. Ren says this never happened, there was no fight, and he left for no reason. During a search of Samantha's house and car, blood is found and taken to get analyzed. Nothing has been released about what came from this. I've seen a few reports that Samantha's car keys were found with the four-wheeler, but this is not confirmed. Samantha's sister claims that her phone was found at her home. I haven't seen this confirmed anywhere else. Samantha's car was found abandoned in Samsonia from when Ren went to the woods. In August of 2019, during a search, officers found one bunker in the same woods belonging to the Hendrickson family. They found a wanted man, a relative of the Hendrickson family. How weird, right? Makes you wonder where Ren hid out for those few days in the woods. If there were massive searches early on, how did they not find Ren? Probably because he was in a bunker. I think it's pretty obvious that Dusty Ren had done something to Samantha. But the question is why and how? Where is Samantha's body if she is dead? How has zero physical evidence shown up? I'm sorry if this reads a mess. I've read through a lot of articles trying to piece together the most accurate story, and it was much harder than I had anticipated.
Number 4.
Stevens Brown was last seen at the Junior Food Mart on 29th Street in Ashland, Kentucky on October 14, 2009. She may have been sighted in the parking lot of Vincent Apartments in Ashland on November 11, nearly a month after her disappearance. She has never been heard from again. It has been 12 long and heart-wrenching years for Harley Brown. Her daughter, Janet Jolene Stevens Brown, disappeared from Ashland in October 2009. Since then, the case has gone cold. I'm hurting, Brown said. I want answers. Investigators say was last seen in the area of the old Junior's Food Mart on 29th Street in Ashland. She did not have ties to anyone outside the local area. All of her personal belongings were left at her home, and there is no indication that she intentionally left the area. I never thought that it would be this way. I pray every day, every night. I ask God to watch over her, keep her safe. Let her be warm, let her be eating. Brown says her daughter had left their home along Belmont Street to go to a nearby convenience store and never returned. I want to put my arms around her, tell her I love her and ask her where she's been. For the last 10 years the family has held vigils, search parties and passed flyers around with Jolene's picture as they keep her story alive. They have also worked with the national non-profit group, We Help the Missing, trying to spread the word. It's heartbreaking, said Kay Nolan with We Help the Missing. They deserve answers, they deserve closure. Somebody knows what happened to Jolene. People don't just vanish into thin air. Kentucky State Police say, if you have information, you can call the Ashland Post at 606-928-6421. Callers can remain anonymous.
Number 5.
Alexandria Suleski was last seen in Radcliffe, Kentucky on October 23, 1989. She was last seen at approximately 2 p.m. while she played outside of her family's home at the Duval Mobile Home Park on South Wilson Road, which is located near the 1100 block of Dixie Highway. She disappeared at some point afterwards and has never been seen again. Her family reported her missing on October 26, and a huge search was undertaken to try and locate the little girl. Her family originally stated that Alexandria had wandered away. Authorities initially believed that Alexandria had possibly wandered off into one of the various sinkholes in the area. They soon figured that this is not what happened at all. After so much time had passed without finding Alexandria, investigators started to suspect foul play as a possible factor in the case. After a month, authorities said they believed that Alexandria had been abducted by a stranger. This possibility was considered even more likely when sightings of Alexandria were called into authorities in the months after her disappearance. In at least one of these sightings, Alexandria was seen with an unidentified woman, but it's unclear what came of that lead. Various missing children agencies list her as a non-family abduction. In April of 1990, Alexandra's father and stepmother, Thomas and Roxanne Suleski, were arrested for child abduction as well as violating a custody order in relation to Alexandria and her sister, Dawn. Thomas was supposed to take Alexandria and Dawn on a vacation in August of 1989, but instead he moved the family to Kentucky. Alexandria and Dawn's biological mother had custody of them. After the move, Alexandria and her older sister lived with Roxanne, Thomas, and Roxanne's older daughter, Nissa Bruno. The 1990 charges were dropped due to lack of evidence, and authorities were still uncertain as to what happened to Alexandria at the time. In 1993, Thomas and Roxanne were charged with abusing, abducting, and killing Alexandria. Nissa came forward to the FBI and wanted to speak to them about her stepsister's disappearance. She told them that on October 23, 1989, Roxanne severely punished the child because she soiled herself. Alexandria was known to soil herself, and this was said to enrage Roxanne. Alexandria was previously abused by Roxanne. She once used a belt to beat her and made her stand in the corner with her underwear all night. She also once made the child eat jalapeno peppers. On the day she allegedly disappeared, Roxanne placed Alexandria into a garbage bag and made her stay in it. She checked the bag at one point and put that garbage bag with Alex in another one because she spiked herself out of fear. Nissa testified that she heard gasping noises come from the bag. Alexandria was kept in the bags all day while her sisters were at school. Roxanne went to check on her the next day and found that she had died. She attempted to revive her and called Thomas and told him that the child had died. Instead of notifying the authorities of her death, Thomas buried her body in a box in the woods of Otter Creek Park in Meade County, Kentucky. Nissa feared what her mother and stepfather would do if she told anyone about what happened to Alex, so she went along with their story that Alex disappeared while playing outside. She told Alexandria's sister Dawn, and then her father, who called authorities. She wore a tape recording and discussed what happened to her sister with Tom. In the tape, Thomas stated that in 1991 he went back to the site where Alex's body was buried and destroyed her skull. He also stated he scattered Alexandria's remains in another state. Both of the defendants maintained their innocence and said they never hurt Alex. They were convicted of all charges brought against them and sentenced to life imprisonment with a chance of parole in 25 years. There was a possibility that they could have received a death sentence for her murder. In early 2001, the Suleskis' defense attorneys attempted to have their sentences pushed aside, but the requests were denied and they remained in prison. In 2018, both of them came up for parole. Nissa pleaded with the parole board not to let her mother out because she feared that Roxanne would come after her and her loved ones if she were let out. Roxanne waived her hearing and agreed to serve the rest of her life sentence. In his hearing, Thomas said he was stupid and weak and didn't actually play a part in his daughter's death. He stated that Roxanne told him that Alex died from a sickness she had, and he didn't want anyone in his family to be hurt. He disposed of Alexandria's body in order to protect his wife. Thomas and Roxanne have since divorced. Thomas also claimed that Alexandria had never been put in a garbage bag at all and was asleep in her bed when he left that morning. Thomas was denied the possibility parole until 2028. He stated he hopes to be released and was trying to stop making such tragic decisions. Alexandria has never been located despite her father and stepmother's conviction in relation to her murder. She remains listed as a missing child, and her case is classified as a non-family abduction.
Number 6.
Teague was sunbathing at Newburgh Beach in Henderson County, Kentucky on August 26, 1995. A witness was observing the beach area through a telescope from across the Ohio River at approximately 12:45 p.m. The witness told authorities that he saw a Caucasian man approach Teague at that time. The abductor allegedly grabbed Teague by the hair and dragged her into the woods off of Newburgh Beach at gunpoint. The abductor was approximately 6'0" and weighed 210 to 230 pounds. He had brown hair and a bushy brown beard. He was wearing jeans and did not have shirt on. He was also reported to be wearing a wig and a mosquito net at the time he abducted Teague. Authorities searched the Newburgh Beach area later in the day and discovered part of Teague's bathing suit near the alleged abduction site. Additional evidence was also located, but nothing investigators found could lead them to Teague's whereabouts. She has never been heard from again. Marvin Ray Marty Dill, a resident of Henderson County, Kentucky, was pulled over in a routine traffic stop after Teague's disappearance. He drove a red and white Ford Bronco, which was identical to a vehicle a witness reported was parked next to Teague's car on Newburgh Beach. A photograph of him is posted with this case summary. Authorities discovered a hair resembling Teague's, 2 guns, 2 knives, duct tape, rubber gloves and rope in Dill's vehicle at the time of his traffic stop. The truck had bloodstains on the inside tailgate. Dill also strongly resembled the composite sketch made of Teague's abductor. Investigators received several tips connecting Dill to Teague's case in August 1995 and arrived at his home to question him. Dill reportedly told his wife to leave their residence after becoming alerted to law enforcement's presence. He then committed suicide by shooting himself before officers could enter his home. Prosecutors compiled available evidence against Dill after his death and brought the information before a grand jury. His was called as a witness during the grand jury phase, but she invoked her Fifth Amendment rights and refused to answer any questions about Teague's abduction. Another possible suspect in Teague's case is Christopher J. Below, a native of Henderson, Kentucky. A photograph of him is posted with this case summary. He pleaded guilty to attempted involuntary manslaughter in connection with the 1991 death of Catherine Fetzer and is serving a prison sentence of 11 to 18 years for the crime. Fetzer's body has never been found, but Below confessed to shooting her and pleaded guilty to attempted involuntary manslaughter. He is also considered a possible suspect in the disappearances of Mary Kushto, Shailene Farrell and Christina Porco. Investigators believe Below may have attacked other women who physically resembled Fetzer. Both Teague and Fetzer had long dark hair and were about 5'0" and 100 pounds. Below was known to be in the general area when Teague was abducted, but shortly after her disappearance, on the same day Dill committed suicide, he left Kentucky. Dill and Teague share some acquaintances. Although the witness to Teague's abduction consistently identified Dill and not Below as the kidnapper, authorities believe they have circumstantial evidence to tie Below to the crime. They believe he and Dill may have done it together. Perhaps one grabbed Teague and the other drove the getaway car. Below has not been charged in connection with Teague's case, however, due to a lack of conclusive evidence linking him to the crime. In February 2013, Teague's mother filed a lawsuit against local, state and federal authorities in connection with her daughter's abduction, alleging malfeasance and a cover-up. Her mother claims law enforcement focused on the wrong suspect in Teague's kidnapping and failed to follow up on leads that would have led the investigation elsewhere. The litigation is pending. Teague's disappearance remains unsolved. Foul play is suspected due to the circumstances involved in her case.